So what was this job, this freelance job that paid me $3,000 per month, for which I only needed to work 30 hours per month, not per week, per month? Most students work either at a student rate or minimum wage, and I myself did these kinds of jobs before. I worked as a barista at Starbucks. I worked as a salesperson at a furniture store. But with everything getting more and more expensive by the day here in Canada and also all around the world, it is really difficult to cover your expenses working a minimum wage job while also having enough time left to study. So what to do? The solution is to find a job that pays a higher wage, or to be more precise, not a higher hourly wage, but a freelance job that is not based on hours at all, or a job that either pays commissions or a lot of tips. And this job that I had was not based on a minimum number of hours. So if you are a student or anyone who is looking for a job that pays more than minimum wage, then this video might give you some ideas for what to look for, and I'm also going to give you some tips on what you might need to do next. So just a bit of context here, a bit about my background. I did my second studies here in Canada, in Toronto. I did a postgraduate certificate. Before that, I studied in Germany, and throughout all of my student life, I had so many jobs. I had about 8 to 10 jobs as a student, so I have quite some experience on that front, I must say. And if you want to know in more detail what these jobs were exactly, you can go ahead and visit my blog, which I'll link up here, which is multiplecareers.com, where I talk more about my different job experiences. So what was the problem with all of these student jobs? The problem was that all of them took up a lot of time and really didn't pay much. And that's something that you might be going through yourself at the moment. You might have a job that is taking so much of your time, but you're only earning pennies. So what was this job, this freelance job that paid me $3,000 per month, for which I only needed to work 30 hours per month, not per week, per month? It was a freelance job as a YouTube channel manager. To be exact, it was called YouTube channel optimizer, but to simplify it, I will just call it YouTube channel manager. So I worked as a freelancer, to be exact, as an independent contractor for an entertainment company who did kids animation, and I was in charge to manage one of their YouTube channels. So here are some of the things that I had to do. I had to coordinate the dubbings for the voiceovers for the videos, and I had to schedule the publishing calendar. I also had to manage the upload of the videos, so I had to come up with creative titles for videos, the descriptions. So I would say that in general, it was an easy and fun job. And the fact that it was fully remote wasn't even the best thing. The best thing of all was that it was fully flexible. I had no fixed working hours. I could work as many or as little hours as I wanted, as long as I got my job done. And there weren't even many meetings. If you're anything like me, then you probably also hate meetings. They suck up so much of your time. And the great thing about this job was that I could do my job independently, and I rarely had any meetings. Anything that needed to be discussed or decided was done over Slack. So it was a very simple workflow. And in case some of you guys do not know what an independent contractor is, an independent contractor is someone who is hired by the company to complete a certain job, task, or project. And also, when you are an independent contractor, the company who hires you cannot tell you when you have to work and how you do your work, what tools you work, and so on. But at the same time, the company will also not provide you with the tools you need to work. So they will not pay for your internet connection, they will not provide a laptop, and so on. So of course, there are pluses and minuses to being a freelancer or an independent contractor. By the way, guys, if you found this video useful so far, then please do let me know by hitting the like button. And also, if you've been following my channel for a while and you feel that you've gotten a lot of value out of my videos, then you could also support what I'm doing by contributing with a super thanks down below. Thank you. So anyways, the best thing about this job was that it paid $3,000 per month, and all I needed to do is to complete the tasks that they gave me. And as there were no fixed numbers of hours that I had to work, it meant that my hourly rate would depend on how efficient I could get my work done. So if, for example, I needed to work 100 hours per month to get my work done, then effectively the job would pay me $3,000 divided by 100 equals $30, which still would be pretty good. But in fact, I never worked that number of hours. So at first I thought, yeah, this is kind of like a full-time job. And as a student, I'm not allowed to work a full-time job. I thought that it would take a lot of time. It might take 30 hours per week. And I thought perhaps I'll just pass. And by the way, guys, this is something very important that I want to note. If you're a student, student, you need to be aware that there is a limited number of hours that students are allowed to work. During certain times, like currently, I believe there is a certain rule. There are some exceptions and you might be able to work more hours than usual. But in any case, always make sure that you read the most updated guidelines and rules to make sure that you do not work more than you are allowed to. Because especially when you're an international student here, if you work beyond the number of hours that is permitted, you might even be deported, and you really don't want to get into that situation. So during my interview, I talked to my employer and we discussed about how many hours it might take me to work on this, and I figured out that the workload for this job would be more like a part-time job and not like a full-time job. So I started this job and it turned out that per week I only needed to spend 15 to 18 hours. 15 to 18 hours. If we multiply that by 4 weeks, that amounts to 60 to 72 hours per month. So in the beginning, I needed much more time to get my job done because I had to learn about the whole system, the workflow, I had to do some training, and the whole adjustment period and so on. But then after about a month, I got so used to the job and my workflow became much more efficient. I was more productive so that I only spent 10 to 12 hours per week doing that job. So per month, that is 40 to 48 hours. And then in the next 1 or 2 months, I became even more productive and faster doing my work because I had this whole system set up and I knew exactly what I needed to do. And that's where I started only spending about 5 to 7 hours per week on this job, which per month is only 20 to 28 hours. I know, that's crazy, right? So then for the remaining months in this job, I only spent 30 hours per month at the most. So at a pay of $3,000 per month, working 30 hours, I was effectively paid $100 per hour. But note guys, this doesn't mean that the company paid me $100 per hour. This was just my personal individual earnings rate. The company didn't care at all about how many hours I spent on my work. They paid me $3,000 to get this work done for this number of uploads, and as long as I got my job done, as long as the YouTube channel grew, they had no problem with that. They didn't want to know anything about how many hours I spent working. And also guys, note that $3,000 was not my take-home pay. Of course, as a freelancer, I still need to pay taxes. I'm not going to go into details about taxes in this video, but just to let you know that even after taxes, doing this job was still worth it. So this was a really awesome job for a student because it took so little time and I was able to squeeze it in between my studying schedule. So as I told you before, I did a postgraduate certificate which lasted about 1 year. And I had classes on 4 days of the week and I had 1 full day off. And this is how I would plan my work. On that 1 free day, I would take the time to get the most difficult parts of my work done. So if there were tasks that required some research, some planning and so on, I would do it that day. And I would also try and batch some work up front on that day so that I would need to do less on the other days when I had classes. So if per week on average I would work 7.5 hours, I would probably be spending 3 or 4 hours on that 1 free day. And then I would distribute the remaining 3 to 4 hours across those 4 days. So on those 4 days where I had classes, I only spent about 1 hour working. And I would usually either do my work during my lunch break or after classes in the afternoon. Okay, now you might wonder, how in the world did I get this job? That's perhaps a one-off. Jobs like that don't really exist, right? They do, but of course it's not easy to find them. So let me tell you how I got this job. I did not get this job the conventional way, but I got this job through a connection. So a friend, a second-degree connection at that time, who was working at that kids entertainment, kids animation company, was looking for a YouTube channel manager. And since she knew that I also had my own YouTube channel and I had experience with that, she asked me to apply. So the next day I got an interview with her manager, and it turned out that they also really wanted to have someone who had experience with project management, which I had from my banking days. I was a project manager in banking, so it was perfect, and I got the job the next day. Would I have gotten the job without this connection? I would say that I would still have gotten the connection just because I had the exact requirements that they were looking for. But the problem would be that I might have not known about this job in the first place. I would never have thought to look for this kind of job. And this is where I want to get to one of my tips for you guys. If you are looking for a freelance job, you need to let people in your network, your acquaintances, your family members, friends, and so on, know that you are looking for a job, that you are open to work. because amongst the sea of acquaintances, you might have hundreds of connections. You never know who happens to be looking for a very specific type of person, a specific type of profile, and that might just be you. But if you don't tell anyone that you are looking for a job, then no one will think of asking you to apply or telling you about that job. And guys, I also have another video for you, which I will link up here, where I talk about 2 tips for how you can get a job fast. In a moment, guys, I want to talk about what this means for you and what you can possibly do to get a job that is above minimum wage. But before I continue with that, let me just share with you one more thing. Some of you might know that I started my first career in banking, but after 5 years in banking, realizing that it was not for me, I actually quit my job, and since then I have become self-employed. And during my entire phase of self-employment, I derived income from various sources. And I also made another video where I talk about my various income sources, which I will link up here for you. So these jobs were not student jobs and not just jobs in Canada, but these were all the different income sources that I had throughout my career. And perhaps that might give you some ideas for how you can earn some extra income. And in case you don't know yet, living in Canada is actually my second channel. My first channel, the very first channel I started, is called Multiple Careers. And on that channel, I talk about things related to career, about how you can build a career that is fulfilling and meaningful to you instead of getting stuck in a job that you dislike and which you feel miserable in. So if that is something that is important to you, then I would also recommend you to check out my other channel, Multiple Careers. And on that note, I also want to let you know that soon I will be releasing a book. Yes, I am also a book author. And the book will be titled by the same name, Multiple Careers. I'm not going to go into much detail about that, guys, but I will make sure that I'll keep you updated. So that was my experience working in a high-paying freelance job, but what does that mean for you? I would say in the beginning, when you're here in Canada, if you really need the money, just do any kind of job. Do those minimum wage jobs just to keep you afloat. But while you're doing that minimum wage job, start looking out for other kinds of jobs. There are many freelance jobs out there that pay more if you just look for them. Also start thinking about the skills that you have that you could possibly monetize. For example, design skills, web design skills, perhaps coding or copywriting or even photography. You might not immediately get the freelance job that you want at the pay that you expect. But if at some point you want to get to that stage, you just need to start somewhere. Just start and get some experience working freelance. When you work freelance, you can basically set your own rate. If you're good, of course. If you're really good at what you can do, if you can build good relationships with your client, and if you can work very productively and efficiently, you can earn a much higher rate per hour. You can earn $30 per hour, $50 per hour, even $100 per hour. And even if it's not $100 per hour in the beginning, even if you just earn $30 per hour effectively, it is much better than earning that minimum wage of $15.50. And I think the student rate is even lower. I hope this video was useful to you guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.